It has begun. Tear gas at the border. Let's talk about it. Middle America with Vin and Sori. So the Associated Press and Politico are reporting that tear gas has been fired at migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border. In an article published earlier today, which will be in the description, reporting from Tijuana, Mexico, migrants approaching the U.S. border from Mexico were enveloped with tear gas Sunday after a few tried to breach the fence separating the two countries. U.S. agents shot the gas, according to the Associated Press reporter on the scene. Children were screaming and coughing in the mayhem. Honduran migrant Ana Zuniga, 23, said she saw the migrants open a small hole in concertina wire at a gap on the Mexico side of a levee, at which point the U.S. agents fired tear gas at them. "We ran, but when you run, the gas asphyxiates you more," she told the AP, while cradling her 3-year-old daughter, Valerie, in her arms. Mexico's Milenio TV showed images of several migrants at the border trying to jump over the fence. Yards away on the U.S. side, shoppers streamed in and out of an outlet mall. What a contrast. Good Lord. Earlier Sunday, several hundred Central American migrants were pushed past a blockade of Mexican police who were standing guard near the international border crossing. They appeared to easily pass through without using violence. Some of the migrants called on each other to remain peaceful. A second line of Mexican police carrying plastic riot shields stood guard outside a Mexican Customs and Immigration plaza. The line of police had installed tall steel panels behind the outside of the Chaparral crossing on the Mexican side of the border. Migrants were asked by police to turn back toward Mexico. More than 5,000 migrants have been camped in and around the sports complex in Tijuana after making their way through Mexico in recent weeks via Caravan. Many hope to apply for asylum in the U.S., but the agents at the San Ysidro entry point are processing fewer than 100 asylum petitions a day. Ireneo Mujica, who has accompanied the migrants for weeks as part of the aid group Pueblos Sin Fronteras, said the aim of Sunday's march toward the U.S. border was to make the migrants' plight more visible to the governments of Mexico and the U.S. "We can't have all these people here," she said. U.S. President Donald Trump took to Twitter Sunday to express his displeasure with the caravans in Mexico. "It would be very smart," all caps, "if Mexico would stop the caravans long before they get to our southern border, or if originating countries would not let them form. It is a way to get certain people out of the country and dump in the U.S. No longer," he wrote. Mexico's Interior Ministry said Sunday the country has sent 11,000 Central Americans back to their countries of origin since October 19th. It said that 1,906 of them were members of the recent caravan. Mexico is on track to send a total of around 100,000 Central Americans back home by the end of this year. Okay, well, look, from a humanitarian perspective, my belief is that we should have an open border policy, and unless you present us with massive mitigating factors for why you shouldn't come into our country, we should let you in. However, that's not our current policy. And this is not a right-wing issue or a left-wing issue. These are just the facts. That's not our current policy. We don't have an open border policy, and this is not something that Trump recently invented where he was talking about our borders. There are multitudes of videos like this one.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more by hiring a record number of new border guards.
We are a generous and welcoming people here in the United States, but those who enter the country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law, and they are showing disregard for those who are following the law. We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants in this country.
Okay, so this idea that we need to protect the borders and all the rhetoric that's used is not a distinctly Trumpian idea. So when I see folks on the left side of the aisle pretending as if Donald Trump is doing something crazy and xenophobic by not allowing these people to come in as asylum seekers, it's pretty ridiculous. Everybody has been talking about fortifying the borders. On the other hand, it is their constitutional right, but it's not their right to tear holes in fences and jump over the border. Look, we are actually taking those petitions. We're taking about 100 a day. This is by Politico, who's no friend of Donald Trump. Look, we're taking 100 of these petitions a day. So while I have a lot of human compassion for these folks, at minimum, wait in line. If you're taking 100 a day, every 10 days you're taking 1,000 people, right? That's just simple math. And so in a month and a half, everybody's petition, if there's 5,000 of you, will be handled. So I don't understand this thing about pushing. Maybe you guys can help me out in the comment section. I don't understand what the logic is of tearing up fences and going past police blockades and all the rest of it. Furthermore, Mexico, I didn't know this. Mexico has sent over 1,000 asylum seekers away from Mexico back to Central America. They sent 100,000 Central American asylum seekers or refugees or whatever the terminology is back there. So we can't put this all on Trump and call it xenophobia. Now, of course, I am not a fan of the terminology that Trump uses where he talks about dumping people as if they're garbage. Completely irresponsible term, below the dignity of the office of the President of the United States. I don't understand why there's nobody in the White House that can edit the things that Trump says about other human beings. And seriously, if you are a diehard Trump supporter, do you have any concern whatsoever about the way that he makes reference to these people? Because the facts are, not all of them are going to get sent back to Central America. Like we said, 100 of them are getting processed today. So these are basically, our president just said that these human beings are basically pieces of human garbage that are being dumped by other countries. Well, if we do take these folks in as asylum seekers, they're immediately assigned an inferior role in our country. Now, if you're a Trump supporter, do you have any concern whatsoever in any way, shape, or form about this type of rhetoric? Because it seems to me that our president has absolutely no awareness of the fact that the words that he says can incite violence, can incite certain supremacist groups to make certain actions. And then when folks do act on those things, they immediately want to absolve the man of all responsibility. We got to do better than that, y'all. Look, both sides have been politicizing these people. And it seems to me that some of these people are politicizing themselves. If it was just a matter, I mean, here's my final take on this. If it was just a matter of people harmlessly seeking asylum or genuinely or innocently seeking asylum, do it the right way. 100 petitions a day, in my opinion, is a pretty good clip. If you made that trek all that way, waiting a month and a half to get processed shouldn't be that hard of a deal. It's a terrible look. It's horrible optics. The lack of self-awareness on both sides here, to me, is mind-boggling. It is horrible optics when you are seen cutting through wire and pushing past guards, even on the Mexican side. Because the narrative that the left is spinning is that you have these poor brown people trying to get in and these nasty white nationalists are blockading them. When the fact of the matter is, Mexican police are trying to blockade them and the brown folks are pushing past the brown Mexican police. Those are the facts. Terrible optics. Terrible optics from the migrant crowd, and terrible optics from our president, who still doesn't understand the power of the office ultimately. Shooting the tear gas at them, hey, look, here's the thing about the tear gas. The Mexican police were basically out there saying, no, no, don't go past us, respect us, and they blew right by them. Well, now you're running into a Trump-backed border patrol. And they're not going to do this, no, no, listen to us. They shot at them with tear gas. Well, like I said, I'm an open border guy. But if you're tearing through fence and you've already went by a whole row of police, what do you expect? What do you expect? Because now the narrative changes from you're just an innocent person trying to seek asylum from a very terrible situation to now it seems you have this sense of entitlement that you're somehow now entitled and that you're not a guest here. Like, you can't go into somebody's house and it's like I said, you know, if there's a homeless person outside and I take you in, you don't get to go into my house and start wrecking the walls and doing all the rest of it. You can't do that. You can't do that and then at the same time innocently claiming that you're you're just seeking asylum. Terrible look. Terrible look. But both sides to me. So the tear gas thing, I'm not a fan of it because I'm a fan of open borders. But our current policy considered, I don't see how in any way, shape, or form you can say that they did the wrong thing. Now I feel terrible about the kids, but it's the parents that put those kids in that situation because they were essentially daring the United States to actually do something about it. And this is the wrong group to do that with because Donald Trump will do something about it if for any other reason other than his ego. Forget about policy and security. He's made a statement. He deployed troops down there. So now you're going up against Donald Trump's ego and you're daring him because you know there's all this media there. You're daring him to do what he said he was going to do. Well, you know, this is not like the Obama situation with the red line. You know, Putin steps over the red line and Putin said, oh yeah? And Obama did nothing. This is not, we're dealing with a different individual here. Terrible optics, terrible idea, and it's a day in which anybody who reads what actually happened as far as the tear gas goes, to me it's almost impossible to indict Donald Trump on any moral misgiving here. So, those are my thoughts. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell because we do firesides where we actually sit down and talk to each other about those things. We just did one yesterday that was about 3 hours long. It's a call-in show, ladies and gentlemen. So I give my opinion and then you come down and we have a discussion about it. This is not a one-way discussion. Middle America, we are the media. Love your neighbor. Take care of each other, guys. Till next time.